if you want to start up something like this, it depends on your capital. You can start small. You can start by constructing a makeshift greenhouse, a locally made one, where you use eucalyptus poles. Even as low as 5 million, you can put up a small greenhouse. So in that, you'll have an irrigation system, you'll have your seeds, and all you need now to do is to find black soil, find some manure, and get the plants, the planting stations arranged in here, and then you can start.
Growing fast-maturing crops like cucumbers can be very exciting to the grower, as it will generate much anticipated income in a short period. Growing cucumbers in Uganda is picking momentum due to the growing middle-class income, increased inflow of patriots from major cucumber-consuming ethnic groups, and increased nutritional awareness about the significance of good nutrition and feeding. Welcome to Farm Smart on Smart 24 TV. This round we are looking at modern propagation with modern farmer Hellen Machika, and we will be looking at cucumber specifically, starting from the seedling preparation, how they are grown in a nursery bed, transplanted, and finally how they end up in the market. Sit tight and learn the whole propagation process as Ms. Machika educates us.
Hello, my name is Hellen Machika. Today we are going to learn about modern propagation, and we are going to start with seedling preparation. How do we grow our seedlings in the nursery, and thereafter we shall see how we transplant until we harvest and end up in the market. So right here we're going to prepare our trays for planting, and in this modern way of farming we don't use soil. These are planting trays, and we have different germination media that we use. So right with me here we have what we call peat moss. Peat moss comes in kind of a powder form. It's what we use as what you would use for soil. So in order for us to make it ready for planting, we wet it. So we're going to pour some water in it so that it's easy for us to put in the trays and then also put our seeds there. So right now I'm preparing peat moss for planting or for sowing.
Remember, in modern propagation, we put our crops in trays and we have different modern media we use for soil.
We make sure it's wetted well. After it has been wetted, and we make sure there are no big particles, so you make sure all the particle sizes are really small or evened out. After that, we now fill these trays. So it's a simple practice. You just put the peat moss that has been wetted. You ensure that each hole has the peat moss enough to hold your seed. So after we have filled up our tray,
you either do it manually using your hands, or you can use a machine to plant your good quality seeds in trays.
We are going to put a seed per hole, and you also do selection of your trays depending on the size of seed. So our cucumber, so the cucumber seeds are a bit big, so we are going to use trays that have big plugs. After I have filled the tray with the peat moss, I now go ahead to make planting holes or planting stations. And how do I do that? We're doing this manually, but if one is able, you can actually use a machine to place the seeds right in those holes. So I'm doing it manually. I just place a little hole in the middle of each of these plugs. Not so deep, because we don't want our seeds to be so deep. And you make sure it's in the middle and of uniform depth, so that when they're germinating, they come out at the same time and that they grow at the same height. So when you're efficient, you can even use your 2 fingers at the same time so that you do it faster, because on a particular day you may be required to plant more than just 1 tray. So you want to be fast. Okay, so after I've done that, you now get your seeds. We advise that you use hybrid seeds, good quality seed. So I'm putting my seeds into the hand. These seeds, you place them, like I said, in the middle of each of the holes. So you just place one at a time, and we advise that you do it line by line so that you do not skip any hole. Sometimes some seeds are dark, so if you don't follow the line, you may skip some of the holes. But this time, they're blue, so you're able to see which hole has not got it and which one has got. So if you have done this and filled up all the holes, just placed it like that in the tray. At the point of watering, water will not go through quite easily. So that's why I start by wetting it, so that I don't have to water, because penetration of water when the media is very dry is quite hard. We have different types of cucumbers. We have the ones that grow in the greenhouse, and we have the ones that grow outside or outdoor, in the outdoor conditions. So with me, I do house farming, so that's why I select this one. These ones grow best. Outdoor they can do well. However, you get a number of challenges with disease, so I prefer to do the greenhouse. So after I have put my seeds in here, actually for those that do outdoor planting, you can actually plant the cucumber seeds directly in the soil. So what I'm doing next is to cover. I put a small layer of this peat moss over the seed, just to cover it and give it warmth. Remember the conditions that we need for germination. One of them is warmth. So I cover it up. Just ensure that each of the seed is covered under the peat moss. The next step is for us to cover. Like I was telling you, the plant needs warmth. Sometimes you may have planted more than 1 tray. So if you have done more than 1 tray, let's say you have done this and another, you can actually stack them together. But if you have done like one, like what we have done right now, all we are going to do is to find a polythene, what we call the cavera, and just cover it up. Why we are doing this, like I said, we need to increase the warmth so that it germinates quite fast. So I just do that. Remember, I put enough water in the peat moss that will enable them to germinate. So we leave this standing here. You can place it at a convenient place where they will not be disturbed. For about 2 to 3 days, they will germinate. And after they have come out, they start by showing something like this. Once you see a little bit of the leaves shooting up, You then uncover. You remove the cavera from it so that they are able to grow well. Once you have removed that polythene, you give water. You give a little water. You can use a pump or a watering can. When we covered there, we are not watering it again until it has germinated. So once they have germinated, at this stage, we now give them some more water. And you give the water sparingly. You don't give a lot of water. If you put a lot of water, they can get rotten. And you can get fungal infections. You can get what we call damping off, one of the diseases that affect seedlings. So here I'm just going to show you a little bit of how we water. You can use a pump. Sometimes some people use watering cans at this stage, but that affects these seeds because they are still very small. So here we just give a little bit of water, and then you observe during the day. When they are still young, and depending on the weather conditions, you can actually water once a day. If it is raining, let's say the weather is cool and the heat is not so much, you just water once a day. But as they grow, as they improve on size, they begin to take more water. So you can actually do your watering 2 times a day, sometimes even 3. Cucumber take a lot of water, so you can water them. When you're watering, you ensure that each of your seedlings have gotten water. Now, the other part that we need to know is the peat moss that we use here is inert. It does not have nutrients. So for the plant to grow on well, we need to be able to put in some fertilizers. And at this stage, the fertilizer that we need most, what the plant needs most, is nitrogen. So we can use a fertilizer that is rich in nitrogen. You just, this is Easy Grow Starter, which is good for plant growth. So you just measure, dissolve this into this tank, and as you're watering, now here in the nursery, the seedlings will take 3 weeks. At 3 weeks, they'll be ready for transplanting. At 3 weeks, you should be ready with your greenhouse where you're going to transplant them so that they are taken right there. You do not delay them. You don't want your seedlings to overgrow in the nursery. Now, before we go to transplanting, we need to know what happens after the plant has germinated. I've also told you about watering, but sometimes plants get diseases. They get fungal infections, maybe some pests come along. So it's advisable that you also give a spray, a fungal spray, a protective spray. So you can get probably Mancozeb, mix it in your tank and spray your seedlings. You can do that once a week just to protect them before we transplant. And as they grow, we do what we call hardening. Hardening is a process of strengthening the stem of the plant, or so that it's ready to face the conditions that are out there in the greenhouse. So you leave the plant, let's say you've been watering twice a day. When you know that I'm going to transplant them next week, you start reducing on the amount of water they are getting so that they start to get a bit hard. They get used to strong conditions. So once you've left giving them water 2 times a day, they'll become strong and easy for you to take into the garden. So once they are ready, when at the point of transplanting, you just pick them like this. You see the mass of roots? the root system here is quite massive, and this just helps the plant to take on growth. Yeah, so once you have your seedling like this, you know that you're ready for the garden.
Cucumbers can be propagated by seeds or cuttings. If you are using cuttings, make sure that they come from a plant that is healthy. Cucumber seeds should be sown in a propagator between March and April. But you can get started in February if your greenhouse is heated.
Hello? So we are going to transplant our seedlings. We are now going to the main greenhouse where we do the transplanting. So here you have to make sure your planting stations are ready, your soil is well mixed. So in order for us to get this ready for transplanting, we use black soil, which you mix with manure and some charcoal dust. Why do we do that? We need the charcoal dust in order to keep the soil porous for water to be able to move through. And then manure also helps to improve the fertility of the soil, and hence our plants will grow very well. So once you have done this, you irrigate it, put some water in the bags so that when you're bringing your plants, they are ready. They don't go into a dry bag. Now, the first step that you do is to make planting stations. When you have your drip lines like that, we usually plant on the outside. So we make a hole with a peg like this, right in the middle, where you're going to place your seedling. After that, you get your fertilizer. Usually at this stage, plants need phosphorus. So we use a phosphorus-rich fertilizer, which is DAP. So you use a bottle top, one bottle top per hole. So you put it in the hole that you made and make sure it goes right deep down so that your plant root does not touch it. So we put one bottle top per hole. Remember, the hole is deep enough. Once you've done that, and then you bring your seedlings. You pick the seedling that you want to transplant, the strong ones. You can pick and place each right here on the side. The next step is now for you to transplant. You put in some soil, put back some soil to cover the DAP that you put so that your plant root does not get in contact with the fertilizer. Then you place your plant, plant it, and just press it a little in. Put back some soil, put your plant and press. Put back a little bit of the soil, put your plant and press. Put back the soil, put the plant, just like that. There, you will have done your transplanting. And transplanting is advisable to do it in the afternoon, in the evenings, when the conditions are a bit cool. so that your plant doesn't really get so much of the shock. If you have an irrigation, you can use the irrigation system. If you don't have, you can manually keep watering. And you monitor how they are growing. If they have any infections, you do what we call scouting. Keep checking on them. If they have any infestations, you spray. If not, just continue giving them water. And then from here, by the way, in the greenhouse, they take only about 45 days to harvest. So after you've done your transplanting, they will take some time, and they'll take about two weeks for flowers to start coming. Once the flowers start coming, you know that you're almost reaching the fruiting stage. Yeah.
Once the soil has sufficiently warmed and 2 to 3 weeks have passed since the last frost, cucumber seedlings can be transplanted in your garden. Transplanting is advisable to be transplanted in the afternoon or evening when the weather is cool.
After we have transplanted, after 1 week, our plant will be looking like this. And then after the second week, it will be looking like this. As you can see, it's falling. It needs support. So at this point is where we bring in the support system, what we call trellising or staking. So you get a thread, usually a cotton thread is better. You can hang it up here or just tie it. If it's too short, you adjust it. And then you just tie the thread, you support it on this drip line, and then you just twist your thread on the plant like this as it gets support. So it stands up like that. As it's continuing to grow, it is going to bring some side shoots which we don't need at this point. And if you look at these ones, they are at that stage. For example,
maintenance and care are so crucial because cucumbers are very sensitive to cold. They need warm soil and air, whether direct seeded or transplanted.
Look at this plant. There are many side shoots which have come. So you just use your shears and cut them off. These side shoots are not good for our plant. So we keep pruning them so that the plant can grow very well.
Under maintenance and care, we have to pull off some of the flowers on the cucumber plant. This allows the plant to conserve energy so that it can spread out its production of fruit over a longer period of time.
Also, with cucumber, we have the first flowers or the first fruits. Those ones that come, we keep nipping them off because at that stage, the plant will not have yet grown very well. So we remove the first, second fruits or flowers, and we leave the third to grow, so that at that point, the plant is ready to develop. The root system has developed, and then it's able to support this plant to grow. And just like you see these ones, they're growing so well because the side shoots have been removed. If you leave so many flowers, you're going to end up with very many fruits, but they'll be very small because they'll be competing for food, for nutrients. And then also you will need so many strings to keep supporting each of those because they will all creep. So they will be shabby, the garden will be shabby, but most importantly, your fruit size will be very small, because you'll have many fruits on one plant. So you keep taking out also the old leaves, those first leaves that came from the nursery. Those ones also get old, so we remove them. And while in the greenhouse, we maintain hygiene. So even when you're doing pruning, you make sure you keep what you have pruned and go and dispose them off carefully. Yeah. So If you don't put support, you know, cucumber is a climber. It's a creeping plant. It needs to creep somewhere. If you leave it, then it's going to creep on the floor, and then it will not fruit very well. As you see, cucumber needs to hang. Once it's touching the ground, the part that touches the ground is going to get rotten. So we need it to stay upright so that the fruits develop very well. Otherwise, your greenhouse will be like a pumpkin garden with plants everywhere. So we support them to grow upward. At this stage, some plants get infections. You can get some fungus affecting your plant. Some insects can come in. So at this stage, you should be able to scout, to walk around your plant and identify whether there is a challenge or not. If there is one, for example, here I can see one of my fruits is drying. This shows me a number of things. Either there is a disease or the water is not enough, but it's an indication that something is not right. So this only happens, you can only tell this when you do what we call scouting. You move around your garden, move around the plant and check which one is doing well, which one is not okay. Now, when you identify a disease or a pest, definitely you have to spray. So your worker or you as a farmer, you have to be very keen. You have to be keen on monitoring or doing what we call scouting. Scouting helps us to identify diseases and pests, or even water insufficiency or anything that may be happening to our plant, so that you're able to correct it. So we advise that once you have identified an infection, develop a spray routine. You can spray once a week, spray twice a week if there is a serious problem within your greenhouse.
Cucumbers require a continuous supply of water, and where drip irrigation is not being used, plants should be watered deeply once per week, providing at least an inch of water. Shallow watering or watering less frequently will reduce fruit yields.
Cucumbers love a lot of water, so you have to make sure the plants are always having enough water. These bags should always contain enough water. Otherwise, you'll have them dropping. And once they are dropping, the flowers can drop. And once your flowers drop, that means you're losing. You're losing out on your fruits, and hence losing out on money. And there are many other agronomic practices that you do. For example, weeding. You can walk around and observe, because here we use soil like this. If you identify these kinds of weeds, you remove them. This is the kind of weeding you do in the greenhouse, just by picking out the leaves, the weeds that are growing in your greenhouse. And you also make sure your greenhouse is clean. Keep it always clean. After an activity like pruning, trellising, whatever it is that you're doing, make sure you maintain the greenhouse clean. And you can do that by sweeping and removing all that you have pruned out. Take it out and dispose of well, so that your plants are not affected by what you have already pruned. Yeah. The most challenging pest that we have in the greenhouse are white flies. We get a lot of white flies and also thrips, but not so much here. So when we have challenges with white flies, we spray. There are many chemicals that you can use to spray. If you are doing organic, you can get a chemical like nimbecidine and spray. You can also do a concoction of using hot pepper, ash, some soap, and you spray. However, if not, you can buy a chemical like duduacelamectin that helps you to kill the white flies, or tafga. All those are chemicals that are available in the market. against these pests. As you can see, some of these plants are yellow. This is an indication that they are lacking nitrogen. So at this point, we're going to up our nitrogen. We are going to increase the amount of nitrogen fertilizer that we are giving them. We're also going to increase at the fruiting stage. The plant needs potassium, magnesium. So we are going to increase, because here we mainly put potassium nitrate, magnesium sulfate, and micronutrients. Micronutrients, especially one called boron, is very good for for cucumber. So if you notice this kind of yellowing in your greenhouse, then you check out your fertilizer regime. Maybe nitrogen is lacking, maybe magnesium. For example, magnesium deficiency shows with this kind of dots in the greenhouse, and meaning the cucumber leaves. So we're going to up the amount of magnesium that we are putting in our plants. A stage where we need to harvest. However, in order for you to harvest, you need also to understand the type of market you're supplying. Some of the customers want the cucumber long and slender, whereas others want it fat, big. So you basically harvest according to what your customer wants. So at this point, these plants have taken 45 days, and in order for you actually to tell that the cucumber is ready, there is the tip of the cucumber usually has a flower. The remain of the flower dries and drops off. So at that point, you know that your cucumber is ready. But also the length gives you an indication that it's ready. So for my customer, they want it big. So when I'm harvesting for that particular customer, I take the huge ones, the ones that are quite big. And you need to have a harvesting crate. You don't harvest and put on the ground in order for you to maintain the hygiene, because the cucumber have to be clean. So you need to have a harvesting crate, and that is what I'm using right now. And for you to harvest also, you don't just pull it out. You need to have a harvesting knife, or you can use a scissor like this one. So you just cut it and it comes out without any damage on your fruit. And you place it gently. Cucumber is almost 90% water. So if you throw it anyhow, it can get bruised. And when it's bruised, the customer does not take it. So you just harvest by cutting it off like that. And each week, you can be picking from the same plant at different levels.
Pond 5.
Like I told you, if your customer needs them small in size, so you have it like that. If your customer needs them big, that is what you give.
Pond 5.
I have several customers. Some of them are the vendors in Nakasero, but my first customer are the supermarkets that I supply. I supply supermarkets, so those are my first priority. I give it to them. After that, I have those Nakasero vendors who sell to them. Apart from that, we also have individuals who come and buy, or they order and then we deliver to them. Somebody can tell you, I need maybe 10 pieces. Others say, I need 20 kilos, depending on how they find it. So we give it to them according to how they want it. I do grow cucumber mainly because of its fast. Cucumber takes 45 days to be ready, and compared to, say, tomatoes, the challenges as far as disease is concerned is not so much with cucumber. Secondly, there is demand for it. I have market for the cucumber, so it's kind of something that gives you money fast that you can be able to use to grow, to do other things. And then also, cucumber is something that I also like eating. It's something that makes good salad. So that's one of the things that really made me go into cucumber production. I got the inspiration from, there is a company where we buy seeds from. These guys had a demonstration farm, and I saw how the cucumbers were growing. Quite fast, so easy. Cucumber can also be grown outdoor. They can grow. However, when you're doing it under greenhouse, you have less challenges, especially with diseases. Now, if you want to start up something like this, it depends on your capital. You can start small. You can start by constructing a makeshift greenhouse, a locally made one, where you use eucalyptus poles. Even as low as 5 million, you can put up a small greenhouse. So in that, you'll have an irrigation system, you'll have your seeds, and all you need now to do is to find black soil, find some manure, and get the plants, the planting stations arranged in here, and then you can start. Because you can actually start by planting them directly in the seed. Sometimes our productions can be big and you don't have market. The market can be flooded. Other farmers will also be taking to the same market. Remember, the supermarkets don't take in big quantities. They take frequently, but small quantities. So imagine a house like this. You can harvest about maybe 100 kilos per week. If it's a season for cucumber, you may not actually sell all of it. And once cucumber is not bought, it starts to go bad. So those are some of the challenges that maybe we need to find different things that we can do out of cucumber. As I told you, the market for cucumber here is not very big, and then cucumber is perishable. So most times, if the buyers want to give you a price which is not what you want, you almost have nothing to do. You either sell it or you lose. So we want to find an alternative market. If we can sell cucumber, if we can export it, it would be good. Because already I have a vendor, one of the people I supply to in Nakasero, she takes it abroad. So if she can do it, so can we. Yeah. We also have challenges in that most people don't know about the English cucumber. They are used to the local one, the ones that are short and a bit white. So kind of we're introducing this to the general market. The people that usually take this are a few. The percentage are those that understand it. So you find that the market for cucumber is not very big. That is one of the challenges that we get. Otherwise, if you plant very well and produce it when it's off season, you'll have a good day. All of it will be taken. How we market these, there are many ways. One, the best is on social media, and my best platform is on WhatsApp. We put it on status, but we also have a WhatsApp group for farmers. Different WhatsApp groups actually. So we keep posting there what we have. We have a special day that is a market where we post everything that we have on the farm, and then people make their orders and we can deliver to them. But we also put it up on Facebook, we tell people about them, we go to exhibitions, yeah, we tell them about what we have. As far as pests and diseases are concerned, of course, those pesticides, the inorganic pesticides, are expensive. They're quite costly, and you cannot do without them unless you're doing organic, which is possible within the greenhouse. But for the things that we grow outside, it's a bit of a challenge. The pesticides, we need probably some reduction in the costs. They are quite high for an average farmer. Remember, this plant, you harvest it for 2 to 3 months, and along that period, that whole time, you keep spraying. You have to keep spraying. After harvest, you spray maybe once every week, and in order for you to have those chemicals, you need to have money. So they are quite costly. Pests and fertilizers. Remember, we plant this not in contact with soil. We have to feed them entirely. We have to buy fertilizers continuously from beginning of the plant to the end. You have to keep supplying the crop with fertilizer, which is also expensive. Yeah. So when you're going into this, you have to plan for that carefully. Otherwise, these plants cannot grow without. We support them with organic manure, but not all nutrients are there, and we cannot tell how much is in the organic manure. So we have to supplement with the inorganic ones, which are bought at a high cost. Actually, I would advise the youth to start, if they are going to start farming, especially if they want to start a greenhouse, or even if it's outdoor. One of the best crops to start with is cucumber, mainly because it takes a short time to grow, and secondly, the challenges of pests and diseases is not as much as it is in tomatoes. And then the agronomic practices are not so much. They're easy to learn, only you need to support them and do the pruning. So it is one of those crops that you can grow with ease. You don't have to steam the soil that you're going to plant it in. If you start it small, even marketing it won't be very hard. Yeah, so anybody who would want to go into this business, I think it's something I would advise others to do.